Today's lesson is called The Future Will Be Electric. Hi everyone, my name is Jeff.
And I'm Roger, and today we're going to continue talking about the rise of electric cars, or the rise of electric vehicles. In the United States and Canada, most people drive cars. Here in Taiwan, of course, scooters are king. It seems there are scooters everywhere, so we have to talk about this in terms of not only electric cars, but also electric scooters, because their numbers will increase as time goes on. And yes, indeed, we talked about the reasons why electric vehicles are becoming more popular. The driving force, of course, is because of environmental reasons, because they don't pollute the air as much as gasoline-powered cars do. I think another attractive advantage to these cars is that they have great acceleration. I've noticed that if you're riding an electric scooter, you can get ahead of all the other scooters at green lights, and you don't have to wait for the next green light. Of course, when everybody has electric scooters, that will no longer be an advantage, but for the time being, it is an advantage.
Acceleration time, yes, is faster in a battery-powered automobile or scooter. Now, fun fact, Roger, do you know who invented electricity?
Well, I don't think it was Benjamin Franklin, but maybe it was Elon Musk, right?
It was actually Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, it was.
Good call. But yes, when you see lightning strike, that is the natural or a natural manifestation of electricity in our atmosphere. Now, I don't want you to walk outside of your house during a big thunder and lightning storm and try to witness that yourself. But Ben Franklin did, and apparently he was able to discover electricity in the process. Great story. Don't try it at home. Anyways, folks, let's go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, we'll be reading again from an article called The Future Will Be Electric.
Affordability is just one of many conditions that need to be met before electric cars can truly replace gas-powered ones. Consumers also have reservations about the practicalities of owning an electric vehicle. See Figure 2. And these concerns are becoming more pressing as the possibility of owning one becomes more real.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 practicality， 这个字是名词，意思是实用性。例如 When buying a new car, I recommend focusing on practicality rather than appearance and speed. 买新车时，我建议将重点放在实用性，而非外观和速度上。另外，这个字去掉字尾 ity， 就成了形容词 practical， 指实际的、务实的。举例来说 In order to save money, Jenny realized the practical choice was to start cooking more at home. Jenny 了解到想要省钱，实际的选择就是开始多在家做饭。或是 This jacket is pretty, but I'd have no practical use for it. 这件夹克是很漂亮，但对我而言不实用。接着我们看到形容词 pressing， 指迫切、紧迫的，像是 Low attendance is a pressing issue for the school principal. 低出席率是校长的急迫问题。或是 Many people visit the doctor even when their symptoms are not that pressing. 许多人会去看医生，即便他们的问题没有那么急迫。另外，这个字去掉字尾 ing 就成了动词 press， 指催逼、强迫。例如 The reporters pressed the police chief to reveal the identity of the suspect. 记者们催促警察局长公开嫌疑犯的身份。而 press 这个字也可以当名词，指新闻舆论、媒体报道。举例来说 The mayor's decision has received bad press. 那名市长的决定受到批评。
Okay, it's time now to continue talking about our article about the rise of electric vehicles. The future belongs to electric vehicles. And, of course, we did talk about the main incentive people have for buying such cars. they will help the environment, and we won't have so much air pollution if everybody is driving electric cars. Now, affordability is just one of many conditions that need to be met before electric cars can truly replace gas-powered ones. So, yes, indeed, at the moment, electric-powered cars are quite expensive, and if you have enough money to buy one, buying one, of course, is more of a status symbol, or having that car is a status symbol, and you're not really so much concerned about the environment. I suppose you are, but nowadays, of course, people are buying them more for the status. In the future, though, regular folks will be able to buy them too, and hey, traffic will get quieter and quieter as time goes on.
So yes, right now, gas-powered cars, they're cheap. Okay, you can buy a Toyota or a Honda or a Ford, a small gas-powered car, and it's not going to be that expensive. They're very affordable. Yes, those cars are affordable. That's the adjective. Affordability would be the noun. Okay, if you do go to Tesla, you're not going to find an affordable car on that lot. You are going to find a lot of expensive cars. So it says here that yes, affordability is an issue and is one of many conditions that need to be met before electric cars can really replace gas-powered cars.
Now, consumers also have reservations about the practicalities of owning an electric vehicle, and these concerns are becoming more pressing as the possibility of owning one becomes more real. So if you are a consumer, of course, you're just the average guy or the average gal, and you want to buy a car, but you might have reservations about buying an electric vehicle. If you have reservations, well, you're just not so sure about something. For example, a friend of mine said, hey, you should buy stock in this company. You can make money really fast, but I've got reservations. I've heard some bad things about that company, and I think the stock prices for that company are actually going to go down. I kind of doubt my friend has good advice.
Yeah, that company is making a lot of money now, but I hear that they've got a very bad track record when it comes to the environment. And when that gets out, when that information becomes public, I think that stock is going to take a nosedive. So, no thank you, I'm not going to buy that stock. I've got too many reservations about it, too many things that I feel and that I think are keeping me from doing that. Now, in this sentence, we also have the word practicality, okay? That is a noun. It comes from the adjective practical. If something is practical, it's useful and it makes sense, okay? It's not an absurd idea that you might not be able to implement in real life. It's not one of those ideas that sounds really good or looks really good on paper, but you can't really make work in real life. Something that's practical, sounds good, and then you can actually use it in your daily life. It will solve those problems for you. So that's the word that we're using here as an adjective. A practicality then would just be the noun form of the adjective practical.
Practical or useful. And in this case, for example, I could say you need to consider the practicalities of buying a car, whether it's electric or gas-powered. Where are you going to park the thing? Can you afford taxes? Can you afford the gasoline or the electricity for it? Are you going to have to spend a lot of money on repairs, replacing the windshield washing fluid or whatever? That can be quite expensive, changing oil, etc. Those are all practicalities or things you need to consider when you own a vehicle. And of course, there are practicalities of owning an electric vehicle. And these concerns are becoming more pressing or more important. Pressing here just means it's very urgent and you need to think about it right now.
If it's pressing, take care of it, or it might become an urgent situation or an emergency quite quickly. Well, anyways, folks, with that, it is time for us to take a short break. But don't go away. We've got more for you guys on electric cars right after this.
The limited range of electric cars and the lack of charging stations, for example, are both significant sources of concern. Gas stations appear regularly on every major road in the world, making filling a gas-powered car quick and convenient. Electric charging stations, however, are not nearly as widespread. What's more, even with new super-fast chargers, fully charging an electric vehicle can take up to an hour. This may not seem like a huge concern, but it can create problems when demand for charging ports outstrips supply. And of course, the more electric vehicles there are, the worse these problems will become. Unless proper infrastructure is put in place, people will inevitably begin to demand a return to gas-powered cars.
第二部分，我们看到单字 widespread 这个字是形容词，指普遍的、广泛的。例如 The outbreak of the disease was not as widespread as originally thought. 那场疾病爆发范围没有原本预期的大。或是 There was widespread damage because of the floods. 洪水造成了广泛的伤害。再来，我们看到动词 outstrip 指在数量或是程度上超过、胜过。例如The economist says oil demand will soon outstrip supply. 那位经济学家说石油很快就会供不应求。或是 Pierre's new car outstrips any of his friends' vehicles. 皮埃尔的新车胜过他朋友们的任何一台车。最后，我们看到片语 put in place 表示建设就位、启动，或是法令、政令等使点点点生效。像是 The new stadium will not open until every fundamental piece is put in place. 新体育馆要等到每一个基本要素都就位才启用。或是 This law was put in place to stop people from throwing their cigarette butts on the ground. 这条法规实施的目的是阻止人们把烟蒂丢在地上。另外，补充一个包含 place 的相关片语 know one's place 表示安分守己。例如Bonnie knows her place and doesn't question her mother's advice. Bonnie 安守本分，不会质疑她母亲的建议。
Okay, the next paragraph actually tells us about some of these practicalities and some of the pressing concerns of owning an electric vehicle. The limited range of electric cars and the lack of charging stations, for example, are both significant sources of concern. Yes, if I buy an electric vehicle, can I find a charging station? And of course, here in Taiwan, sometimes you have to drive long distances between cities. So yeah, the limited range of electric cars might be a concern. A friend of mine lives in Elon, and if he rides his Gogoro scooter to Taipei, he needs to change batteries in Pinglin. So yes, that is a concern. They do have limited range.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a Tesla charging station. If I did buy a Tesla, would there be a place for me to plug it in? Would I have to park my car in a special designated area where they have a plug for me? These are all good questions, and the same thing would go for Gogoro, but I have seen places where Gogoro does have like a bank of batteries that you can kind of swap out. You can take your old battery there and take a new one and put that old one in a place there in that bank so that it can charge up itself. I have seen those around. Anyways, gas stations appear regularly on every major road in the world, making filling a gas-powered car quick and convenient. And this is true. Now, electric charging stations, however, are not nearly as widespread. Okay, if something is widespread, it is almost everywhere, okay? You can pretty much find a gas station near any major road in the United States. They are widespread. You can't drive far without driving past a gas station. The same thing goes for Canada and Europe in those particular places, you can say that gas stations are widespread.
Yep, they're all over the place. In the past, of course, if I wanted to travel, I needed to bring a lot of cash with me because ATMs were not very common. But nowadays, of course, ATMs are widespread. I don't need to bring so much cash with me when I travel. I can always get it at an ATM or even use my yo-yo card or my Easy card, and things will work out quite well. So indeed, electric charging stations are not widespread, but they will be in the future. What's more, even with new super fast chargers, fully charging an electric vehicle can take up to an hour. Hey, that's a lot of time. Who's got that kind of time? And this may not seem like a huge concern, but it can create problems when demand for charging ports outstrips supply. So we're talking about the law of supply and demand. And demand, of course, is referring to when things are needed and when lots of people want them. So if demand is high, then the supply will go down. It will be outstripped.
There you go. So, yeah, honey, let's buy a Tesla. I think it's the right thing to do. Okay, so you buy the Tesla, yay, you're doing something good for planet Earth, but then you realize all your neighbors have bought Teslas as well, and there's only one charging station in town. Oh my goodness, there's all this demand for this charging station, but the supply, there's just not enough. The demand for charging ports and station has outstripped supply. You're going to be waiting in line for hours, waiting for your chance to charge your car. That doesn't sound like fun to me. In fact, I don't know anyone who likes waiting in line for a really long time. Anyways, moving on, and of course, the more electric vehicles there are, the worse these problems will become. Unless proper infrastructure is put in place, people will inevitably begin to demand a return to gas-powered cars. So there you go. I think this line kind of sums it up quite well. You need to have those charging stations. You need to have roads that connect one road to the next and the charging station to the roads. You need to have all these parts fit together in such a way that battery-powered cars actually make sense. Now, all of these parts and how they fit together, that is what we call infrastructure. You need to put it in place, build it, install it. I think you guys get the idea. And if you do, good things are going to happen. But if you don't, people are going to abandon electric vehicles. It's almost inevitable.
Unavoidable, indeed. So, yeah, they'll probably return to gas-powered cars if there aren't enough charging stations out there. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's wrap things up and listen to the third part.
Evidently, we are in a critical time for the electric vehicle, and the steps taken, or not taken, will seal its fate as the transportation of the future.
Evidently, or apparently, we are in a critical time for the electric vehicle. We've got to act fast and build electric car infrastructure, or infrastructure that is friendly for electric cars.
Yep, so evidently it seems that we are in a critical time, a very important time for the electric vehicle, and the steps taken or not taken will seal its fate as the transportation of the future. If we seal something's fate, basically we set up a situation for something to happen in the future, and it will definitely happen. It won't change, so we might seal the fate of electric cars. Transportation, of course, is basically how we get around, how we move ourselves, or how we move goods.
There you have it. All right, folks, with that, it's time for you guys to hear the Chinese teacher. Bye-bye, everyone.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny， 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分提到，即使用新的超快速充电器，要充饱一辆电动车可能要花1个小时。文中它是用到 up to an hour 来表达多达1个小时的语义。那么 up to 在这边是指多达、高达什么什么的意思，后面通常会接表示数字、数量等等的名词。像我们可以说 The meeting room holds up to 50 people， 那间会议室能容纳高达50人。好，那我们顺便来补充 up to 的其他意思及用法哦。好，第一种，我们可以用事物来当主词的话，后面加上 be up to somebody， 则是表达说某事物是某人的责任，由某人来决定。像朋友如果问说中午要吃面还是吃饭，如果你没差，那就可以回答 It doesn't matter to me, it's up to you。 我没差，你决定就好啦。好，接下来我们看第二种用法，是以人当主词的话，后面可以接 be up to 加上名词或动名词。这时候有2种意思哦。第一种意思是表达某人有能力做某事，有能力去处理或执行某事。像是 Do you think they are up to the challenge？ 你认为他们有办法应付那个挑战吗？好，那第二种意思是表达某人他在计划某事，偷偷做某事，尤其是指不好的事情哦。像有一个用语叫做 up to no good， 就可以用来表达他是图谋不轨的那种语义。好，那么第三种我们可以用 up to 来表达跟 until 差不多的语义，像 up to yesterday 直到昨天， up to this point 表示到此刻为止，到目前为止。好，那么课文第3部分最后一句提到说，所采取或不采取的措施都将决定它成为未来交通工具的命运。好，文中它是用到seal its fate 来表达决定它的命运。那么动词 seal 它除了指密封、封缄，把什么东西封起来的意思，那它还可以表达确认、决定或是那种正式批准的语义。像 seal somebody's fate 或是 seal something's fate 就表示决定某人或某事物的命运，某人或某事物的命运呢，注定会怎么样怎么样。好，那还有一些相关的用语也是用 seal 来表达这种决定啊、确定或是正式批准的，像是我们可以说 seal the deal 表示谈定交易、达成交易了， seal the agreement 表示达成协定，还有像 seal the victory 表示确认的胜利，你的胜利已经决定了，那就表示你拿下胜利了嘛。像我们可以说He sealed the victory with a three-pointer at the buzzer. 他在哨声响起时投进了一记3分球，拿下胜利，确立了他们的胜利。好，另外我们补充一个片语叫做 One's lips are sealed。这时候 seal 它就是像有封住的那种意思，某人的嘴唇像被封条给封住了，那就表示他口风很紧咯，这是守口如瓶的意思。当我们要向对方承诺会保守秘密，你就可以说 My lips are sealed， 我口风很紧的。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天的单字吧。
Reservation. Tyler's mother had reservations about his decision to move to Australia. Widespread. The government's plan to raise taxes was met with widespread criticism. Demand. During summer, demand for iced drinks increases significantly. Infrastructure. The country doesn't have the infrastructure necessary to provide internet access. Inevitably. Discussions about sensitive topics inevitably lead to arguments. Evidently. Evidently, Audrey has decided to paint her house a horrible pink color. Critical. This is a critical moment in the experiment, so be very careful. Transportation. Keith's car broke down, leaving him without transportation.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. Here's the question. In what ways do you think electric cars might improve your town or city?
Oh, I think electric cars would improve my city by drastically cutting the amount of air pollution in my particular city. I'm not going to name the city I live in here in Taiwan, but there is a lot of air pollution because of the cars and scooters that people use. If you replaced each of those scooters and cars with electric cars and electric scooters, there would be no air pollution at all, or it would be drastically cut, and that would be a good thing.
It is a big problem, but for me, electric cars would be a big improvement here. For one thing, we would need lots of electricity to power those electric vehicles, and that means we would probably need to build another nuclear power plant. And if we do that, we'll be offering jobs to lots of nuclear engineers and also to cleanup crews if there's ever a nuclear accident.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you guys enjoyed reading and learning along with us. I am Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.